all of the discussion in Denver this week has been, have the Broncos found the second coming of John Elway? Like, basically, that's the level of conversation we've had this week.
Mm-hmm.
Not just like the next guy that we could have for the first few years. I've heard people say they might be set for the next 15 years at quarterback, which could only mean one guy, the next John Elway.
Yeah.
So instead of us just debating whether Drew Lock is the guy or not, I think it's too early. He's had 2 games. Trevor Siemian had 2 great runs. He won his first 2 games, both of his first 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
The second time, people were calling for him to get a lifetime contract.
Yeah, just really like throw all the money at that.
So I've written down some things that I think are like key to being a great NFL quarterback, and I figured we could talk about like what Drew Lock needs to do for each of those.
Okay.
So the first one, and the thing about being an NFL quarterback is it's not just being able to throw, and it's, I think, probably the hardest position in sports for this reason. You have to be the leader of the team by default. Like, he's just now the leader of the team if he's going to continue to be the guy, and he's one of the younger players on the team.
Yeah.
Like, just got out of college. So I think so far from what we've seen by Drew Lock, he is definitely up to that challenge. He has not shied away from the media. He's taken some steps where he has overruled the coaching staff in some instances to call plays. So where do you think he is on the leading the team role?
I was really impressed by the couple of interviews he's done already. I think, like, well, he's a rookie and he's used to being the man, so he almost talks too much. But that's just better than so many of the quarterbacks we've had, save from Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler was an amazing interviewee. He said all the right things and sounded cool, charming, confident while doing so. Drew Lock, thus far, has had the benefit of also performing really well. But I think that he's in a good position because, especially on the offensive side, everyone is young.
Mm-hmm.
I think Philip Lindsay is thus far the biggest personality, but that's so much just the narrative of him being undrafted hometown dude, and even just his afro.
And no team is led by their running back. It's
no.
like there's not a lot of pressure on that position.
Not at all. And the other character is Sutton, as just thus far being a near Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver, but he's not yet, anyway, the diva wide receiver, which I think the Broncos have always been really good at having team player wide receivers in a position that can very often become toxic. And I think also the great thing is that Drew Lock and Dalton Reisner, 2 rookies, were roommates, and Dalton Reisner is a great personality, and he has been doing nothing but bigging up Drew Lock. So I think it really is not just his personality, but the stage is set for him to really step into that role.
And sort of the other thing, this is actually the bottom of the list, but I'm going to move it up, is earn the trust of his teammates. And that is something Locke's done immediately.
Yeah.
Like, his teammates really seem to like him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge part of being the quarterback, because in this town, we've had all of the situations where no one really trusted the quarterback. Case Keenum, prime example last year.
Yeah.
Everyone was just sort of going along with it. So mastery of the playbook is the next thing you have to be as a franchise quarterback. That is still to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is because you limit reps with the CBA, he hasn't seen as many looks. And this is where the Buzz Lightyear thing comes in, because the reason he's looking at his playbook is he's reminding himself of what the play calls are, which could be interpreted 2 ways. 1, he has not mastered the playbook yet. Or 2, he's reminding himself of what the play is, so then he doesn't have to think about it once the snap happens, which I'm okay with, completely fine with that.
Yeah. This is one that you don't have enough time to fully judge it. I think we've now looked at 3 quarterbacks under Scangarello's offensive coordinating, and the offense hasn't looked good until pretty much last game, which is the first time the Broncos have scored more than 25 points in almost 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Maybe even more. So it's It's too early to tell exactly, but it looked like Drew Lock was running the offense the way that we were hoping with this new young offensive coordinator with all these great ideas. But I look at this the same way that beginning of the season, Gardner Minshew was supposed to be that hot new dude, and I think he was benched before most of his jerseys were able to ship out to people. So it's great because there's just not a lot of film on it. So mastery of the playbook is also going to be mastery of reading the defense, which they're looking at it right now, seeing like, okay, what has Locke done well, which is a lot of things, but then you can look at the pick that he threw and where he didn't recognize that the fact the safety was dropping back and totally read the play the whole way. So he's shown a lot more promise than anyone else so far.
Yeah.
But it's going to take him a lot longer before we can say he's got the playbook down and the ability to read the defense.
And, I mean, he's already miles ahead of where Paxton Lynch ever made it in his seasons with the Broncos. But, yeah, that's one of the things why it's too early. Because if he can't master the playbook, it doesn't matter how good he is.
Well, they performed slower second half. They came out firing. But had the second half been indicative of the whole game, the Broncos probably would have lost because the adjustments that always happens after the second half.
So sort of on those lines is being able to make good decisions. And there are a couple places where that is. One, when you've dropped back, where are you throwing it? Which he had the one bad one, but he's made a lot of good decisions. And then before the play, are you able to read what the defense is doing, change things up if you need to, the Peyton Manning-ness of it. And I think pretty good other than the one interception. But for a rookie to only have one real big mistake so far, I mean, watching Case Keenum last year, it just turned out what we thought we're worried about ended up happening, where he was making a lot of bad decisions. The defense just wasn't catching it.
Yeah.
So feeling pretty good about that so far. But again, what happens when teams figure him out? Can he still make good decisions?
Yeah, well, I think going into Kansas City in Arrowhead, it's going to be the most hostile environment imaginable, and we know that their offense is going to get points. So I think throw any caution to the wind. If he makes mistakes, fine, but I want to see him confident to make that big throw in such an environment, even if it then gets picked off. I'd rather him go out gunslinging than try not to make a mistake in a game that there's just no chance the Broncos are going to win anyway.
Being accurate, which we've seen most impressive part about him so far has been his arm and his ability to find those windows.
Yeah.
And then bounce back games, which is the thing we don't know about yet. But like every quarterback has a bad game sometimes. It really matters how you respond to those bad games.
Yeah. Well, that'll be, I think, the Broncos are going to get their asses whooped in Kansas City. And so then coming back home for the
Lions.
The Lions, that'll be a great, all right, shake it off. Let's see what you do.
And the prime example of what not to do is what we've seen in Cleveland so far.
Yeah.
So I think those are kind of what we need to still see from Drew Lock. And that's why the quarterback position is so hard.
It totally is. But I like a confident dude who we haven't seen a quarterback have fun here in so long. And that's in part personality, but that's also just like there's been no reason to enjoy yourself. So I think, building off of this game, the confidence, you're going to fall back down to earth a little bit. But the dude has been the man for a very long time. And so, like, no one in Missouri burned his car. So
no. And I mean, I think their best quarterbacks have all had that in their personality. Peyton Manning got a taunting penalty. Like, John Elway, very confident. Even Jake Plummer. He felt like he was having fun out there.
Yeah.